So at this point, now that we get yet another trade report, does this go away? Does it become bigger? Like, how does this play out?
It's going to be a thing all season, probably the rest of Giannis's tenure. I mean, the only reason there weren't a whole lot of trade talk in 21, 22 is because they actually won the title. But if y'all remember going into that season, they were the one seed in the East back-to-back years, and Mike Budenholzer was on the hot seat then. This team doesn't compare to the team that they had that won a championship, and Giannis knows that. Giannis was on great teams that couldn't even get to the conference finals. This team is headed towards its fifth straight season not being in conference finals. And y'all can look up. I did a piece a few years ago centered around what I call playoff purgatory. And it basically said if you make the playoffs but can't get to the conference finals 5 years in a row, then you're going to miss the playoffs before you ever win a championship again. And that's what's facing this Bucks team if they can't get to the conference finals this year. And look, the East is pretty wide open. Even the teams at the top, we don't trust them, but we don't trust the Bucks either. And I think Giannis is getting to the point where it's like, I'm on the other side of 30. So whether it's the Knicks or somebody else, keep him out the West. But whether it's the Knicks or somebody else, we're going to have this conversation going. We started it in the offseason, we continuing it now, and it's going to reach a fever pitch in February.
It does feel like we do this every single year with Giannis. But I do want to hit on a team that you cover every single day. You are up close and personals. You see it with your own two eyes every single day, and that is the LA Clippers. So much of the aspiration of it all have dominated some of the offseason storylines. But what about Kawhi and what you have seen from him? How is he looking? How is he moving? What have you seen on the court from Kawhi and this Clippers team?
Well, here's the thing with Kawhi. That dude is impenetrable when it comes to a whole lot of noise surrounding him. And however you want to justify that noise, like the bottom line is Kawhi's got to be the one to deal with it. And he's going to deal with it different than media is, than the fans will, than other guys who are stakeholders in this league will. And from all accounts over these last weeks, he's been Kawhi and the best version of Kawhi, the guy who he is healthy, which any other year that would be the number one topic of conversation. He is playing at a high level. Like he's got new teammates who've been all-stars, who might be future Hall of Famers. I mean, who are definitely future Hall of Famers, raving about being up close with Kawhi for the first time in their careers and seeing what that looks like. Um, like he's going to be fine. Teron Lue told me last week when I asked him, "How are you dealing with all the fact that Kawhi's name is being dragged the way that it is?" And T. Lue, first thing he said was, he doesn't seem to be bothered by that stuff. He's been the best player in camp, which is saying something. Look at their team. Like that's the thing. How Kawhi deals with this now is not even that big of a deal to me. It's what happens when this thing concludes. And that's what people have been missing this whole time, starting with Media Day. Media Day turned into, a bit of a circus because people were like trying to act as if public opinion, this was going to play out while there's an active NBA investigation. Not everybody in the room is obligated to basically participate in that. But the Clippers knew what was going on. The Kawhi knew what was up. You can't absolve that part either. The bigger thing is going to be the penalties, the consequences, and we have a long way to go for that. And some of us got to cover practice and games. So it's going to be something that I pay attention to all season long.
I mean, that being said, Brian Mahoney of the AP reported the NBA will not move the All Star game out of the Intuit Dome. This investigation is going to take a long time. I want to stress that. Every person I've talked to says this investigation is going to take a long time. When it's all said and done, do you believe that there are going to be massive punishments coming, or is this just going to sort of go away?
I don't, I think it's something in between. Like, I don't think we're getting the quote unquote death penalty here. I don't think the league wants to throw the books at them because the thing about the NBA and investigations is when it's not something that is like something that is endangering the well-being of the humans involved. Like the NBA has a way of saying, okay, we're going to defer to what the owners want, and they're investigating one of the 30 owners and the guy that is one of the more influential owners in the league. And maybe I sound cynical when I say that, but I've been I've been a part of having to track investigations. This was my third media day in a row where the Clippers had a dude who was under recent or ongoing investigations. A lot of y'all didn't know that because it's the first time it was a guy that y'all wanted to talk about. So I just feel like, yeah, this is going to drag out, but I also feel like the the actual penalties is probably going to mess. It's probably going to piss some people off if we're just keeping it a buck. Like it's it's going to be a thing where we know what they could do. I'm not sure they do it to the fullest extent, and I don't think they're going to do all that they would do that would actually, hurt the Clippers, to be really honest with you. What you going to do? Take draft picks away from the Clippers? Find the Clippers own? They don't have draft picks to take away from in the first place. You know, I heard people just like, would you void Kawhi's contract? You know how long I've covered the Clippers, and they haven't had Kawhi Leonard. That was literally this time last year. I've been covering the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard playing basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly the penalties are, when they're going to be administered, and stuff like taking the All-Star game out of Intuit Dome. That would be crazy because, like, again, you don't know exactly how the NBA is going to conclude their investigation, and you have had so many people in that organization working to prepare for this. The NBA doesn't want that. Like it would be affecting people far beyond just Kawhi and the organization. I get you got to quote unquote punish somebody, but again, you're not punishing nobody right now. You're investigating right now. So the NBA doesn't need those problems.
And to your point about the punishment, I guarantee you, whatever the fine would be, would be a drop in the bucket
Yeah.
for Steve Ballmer. Like he's good for it. We'll go from the Clippers and then to a former Clipper, and that is Russell Westbrook. Obviously, last year he was in Denver. He still remains unsigned. Why do you think he is still a free agent, and what does his future hold?
Well, he's still a free agent because he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And that might sound crazy to people. You know, why wouldn't you want a future Hall of Famer on your team? There's 30 teams. There's not 30 teams for Russell Westbrook. Like a lot of this is Russell Westbrook's like legacy career. Like you got to consider, are you playing for any team in any situation? No, like that's been clear pretty much ever since he's had opportunities to be a free agent. Look at the teams that he's chosen. The Lakers traded him, a team that he wanted to be home. He wanted to be playing for the team in Los Angeles, and that was an abject failure. Not even Russ gets a lot of blame for it, but the reality is the Lakers put a stupid basketball team together, and the other stars weren't available, and you had a lack of shooting and a lack of size. And yes, Russell's contract complicated that, but the Lakers put a bad team together. They scapegoated their head coach. They brought in a new head coach and was like, "Hey, if you need to bench Russ, go ahead." Like they completely destroyed Russell Westbrook's value, and then they try to slander him for it. He goes to the Clippers, and I mean, the only reason that worked out is because Paul George was loud about it. Kawhi Leonard, Tyronn Lue, they supported it. They wanted a point guard, but that was a situation where the Clippers were deep. The front office were like, we don't need to do this, but like they are collaborative in that front office. They're going to listen to their stars and the head coach. And it worked well enough, but James Harden comes available. That drags out. They have a whole training camp with like, hey, we're gonna have a Russell Westbrook offense. People got excited because they beat the Blazers and the Spurs as a part of that, completely forgetting the game in Utah that was a disaster. And yeah, next thing you know, James Harden's on your team, and Russell Westbrook no longer is a part of your future. And so the thing with Russ is he had a year in Denver where there were some highs, there were some lows. We saw in the playoffs how that played out. I'll tell you what, that hatred was a huge factor in the Nuggets winning that game 7, winning that series. But then he hurts his hand. He's ineffective against the Thunder. Like he opted out and felt like he'd be able to find something. It didn't work out that way. He's staying ready. He's staying prepared. He's going to he's going to be Russ. The question is, does the opportunity as far as where he wants to play, who he wants to play with, open up sooner rather than later? I'm not sure if that's the case, but you'll be hearing from Russ at some point.
Is there a spot that you think he's a perfect fit?
No.
Okay.
I mean, people will that's the thing with Russ. It's like there is no perfect fits. There's no like people were talking about Sacramento this offseason because Sacramento needs another dude with the ball in their hands, right? Like seriously. Uh Sacramento dodging a lot of bullets this offseason, but we don't even talk about the Kings any more than we already are. The Rockets obviously have a hole at point guard. Russ played there, Russ played with KD. And again, my thing is like the Rockets need guys who can like they need confident shooters. Like maybe it could work out, but they can't sign him now. Fred VanVleet being out, like their roster and salary cap situation doesn't allow for that transaction to happen now. They would need a trade to make it make sense. And again, I'm not sure that that's something that, Kevin Durant, the Rockets are trying to do, even later in the season. The kind of team that needs Russ, ironically, I felt like Denver could have really, used him as a backup point guard, a guy who's going to play with some energy defensively. I think the Nuggets did a lot of things to improve that team, but Bruce Brown is replacing Russ. And I mean, if something happens to Jamal Murray, they don't really have another trustworthy playmaker next to Jokic. So that's going to be interesting. But I don't think he's coming back to Denver. He sure as heck ain't coming back to LA for the Clippers or the Lakers. I just there's a lot going on. The Warriors filled their roster spots. You look at Phoenix, but Phoenix isn't good enough. I think being close to LA is important for us, but I don't think that there's an opportunity there. He's not going to go play for the Charlotte Hornets for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? Like there are it's going to have to be something that develops over the course of the year. And that's the situation Russ is in. Like he is a great player. He has been a great player. There are you look at the top 300 guys in the league, he's certainly better than a handful of those guys at least. Just talking about point guards, but there's not a lot of chairs left. That's just what the reality is.
Okay, so real quick before we get you out of here, AD, a lot of conversation. AD's put on a little weight this summer. He says he's trying to prepare for a long season. What do you make of the weight game for AD going into Dallas?
I mean, he's playing power forward, so I guess that's a power thing, right? The thing with AD, I don't know how much basketball he was able to play. I mean, you saw he had an injury-riddled time last winter dealing with a strained core muscle issue and then re-aggravating it in his debut. He had to get surgery to repair a detached retina. He's older. He's already a big man. I do think that what's more important is what kind of shape can you get into in October, and then can you play? Can you be AD? We're gonna see him play basketball this month. I think that's important. I trust what Anthony Davis is saying, and he knows his body. But he is getting older, and I think that that's something that you'll hear a lot more now that he's in Dallas. Because when he was with the Lakers, you had people caping for AD and defending him and whatnot because they wanted to make sure that the conversations with the Lakers were positive. You're not going to get that same luxury now that you playing for the Mavericks. So, what the real conversation needs to be is that team is so unbalanced, and people just are looking at the talent that they've accumulated and not the fit. AD to be the best version of himself for the team that he's playing on is going to have to play some five, and they got way too many fives, especially once Daniel Gafford recovers from his ankle. It's a good thing Derek Lively is healthy now, but that dude never stays healthy over the course of the season. So they have too many guys that need to play one position. Anthony is talented enough to play the four, but they're going to need to accommodate those other guys. And I'll tell you what, in terms of that, the weight gain ain't the worst thing in the world for AD.